On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, which is, by the way, episode 97.
Wow, really? We're about to hit 100?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy.
We are talking about Discovery 306, Scavengers, right after some mystery people say some unknown and unsanctioned things in hopes that you'll sample their wares.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast, the podcast where two lifelong friends take the time to do what they've been doing since they were 5 years old. Talk about Star Trek. You just get to listen in. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, what's the story, Morning Glory?
Nothing. I ain't got nothing to say. Just still working on that album, trying to get that out. That's about it.
I hear you, man.
Been we're working on t-shirt designs and stuff to try to send to the Indiegogo folks. It has been fun.
That all sounds very official.
It does sound official. But it's me. How that goes. It's me, so who knows?
Yeah. It's like, people in my family or people that I knew from college or whatever is like, oh, what are you doing these days? I'm like, I'm doing podcasting and we've got t-shirts and blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, that's really cool. They're like, oh man, I can't believe you guys are so like gung-ho and you got a business and everything going. And I'm like, nah.
Like, is it a business?
I wouldn't call it a business so much as, we're struggling to eat.
Man, sometimes that's business. That's just what business is like.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, let's talk about Star Trek and stop talking about our failing podcasting careers. As much as we joke, I really do. Just like I said it, I think last week too. Like I just enjoy that taking 30, 45 minutes every week to just spend some time talking to my buddy Dave about Star Trek. So let's do this. And you said we had some feedback last week. Did you have a chance to round that up?
Uh-huh.
Sweet.
About 6 pages worth.
What?
From the same 3 people.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. I'll leave that in your hands to decide what to present.
Oh, I skipped some things. This is Scavengers, episode 306. After receiving a message from Book, Burnham and Georgiou embark on a rogue mission to find him, leaving Saru to pick up the pieces with Admiral Vance. Meanwhile, Stamets forms an unexpected bond with Adira.
Do you think they put Georgiou's soul back? Did they re-soul Georgiou?
You talking about like Spike from Buffy?
Yes. Did they give her the Spike treatment? Is that what's going on here?
I mean, how would they have even done that?
Well, he talked about that she had some sort of like that the people on the other side have some sort of like chromosome difference or something like that, and she's like, "Oh, don't tell me you're blah 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 science or whatever," right?
Yeah, man. We got some feedback about that, and I couldn't figure out where that was. But I do know where it is now.
Okay.
Our friend Michael Shackelford.
Oh, yeah. Of Future Elevators, right?
Yeah, Future Elevators, man. He said he does a lot of work for DC on Screen, music-wise.
Yeah,
and good friend of ours.
Great stuff. Big
Star Trek fan. And he says, by the way, do you know what other species is possibly merged in Terran DNA? Georgiou seemed to morph in season 2, almost like a changeling or something. Then we hear the AI in season 3 talk about the genetics of Terrans being chimeral, as in, or chimeral, as in the chimera or chimera, however you want to say it, which is, according to Greek mythology, a monstrous fire-breathing hybrid creature of Lycia and Asia Minor, composed of the parts of more than one animal, usually depicted as a lion with the head of a goat protruding from his back and a tail that might end with a snake's head.
Right.
So I meant to go back and look at that, and because I heard them say something, But honestly, that fluctuating voice thing that they've got with their holograms, I can barely understand what the hell they're saying. So I heard them say something was weird about the DNA of the Mirror Universe.
Oh, it wasn't the hologram. I'm pretty sure it was the guy we were calling Section 31. Cigarette smoking man, whatever that guy was.
Do you know who that guy is?
No. The guy from Up?
No.
What else? Who else is it? Who is he?
He is director David Cronenberg.
Oh.
Of The Fly.
Yeah.
Of Videodrome, Scanners, Dead Ringers, A History of Violence. He's the namesake and the inspiration behind those damn Cronenberg Rick and Mortys from the Cronenberg universe.
No, I get it. Cronenberg. Crazy.
That makes me like him so much more. I didn't like his acting, but no, knowing as him, nah, it's perfect.
Right. All right. I like it. By the way, this is Star Trek adjacent. I did not know this until this week. Do you know? You probably do. I feel like you've got to know this. Do you know who plays the chef in Little Mermaid?
Oh,
the one that's singing about cutting off heads, the French chef who's tossing fish around and cutting their heads off.
I used to know. I feel like that was a thing I used to know.
Renee Auberjonois.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I had no idea. I was watching it and I was looking at what else Renee had been in.
Yeah,
and I was scanning through and I was like, wait, Little Mermaid. Who is Chef? Oh my gosh! And sure enough, you listen to it now. I can't not hear it, but it's Odo is the dancing chef cutting fish heads off.
Well, I knew him first from Benson.
Yes, you mentioned many times.
Second, as Colonel West from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Yes,
traitorous bastard. But yes, Odo.
Yeah, it's crazy. Odo is clearly his most iconic role, though. Come on.
Yeah.
You can know him from other stuff, but
you know who I am.
Yes, I do know who you are.
I saw Star Trek VI so many times. Colonel West is so iconic to me.
Yeah, man. All right. So, anyway, we digress a lot, but
we do.
Yeah, no, I think there's a possibility. It was when she aimed the gun at the guy to kill him. Mm-hmm. She had that flash of regret of something from her past that was very painful. And it made me think of Spike's chip.
Okay.
And it when she went to kill, and I don't know why she had those flashes earlier. Like maybe it was some thought she had, or she was thinking about doing something, that would have led to a death or something like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And and maybe this is a version of that Buffy thing with Spike where they gave him the chip in his head so he couldn't bite people.
I gotcha. See, I was thinking about when you said when they sold him or sold her.
I was just joking.
Yeah, but I thought you, because he literally Spike in season 6 goes and gets his soul.
Yes, I know.
Or gets another soul. So I was thinking that, what? But yeah, okay, the chip thing, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I was kind of conflating it all. I'm sorry. I just thought it was kind of funny that possibly, or possibly that they did do something where they gave her a soul where now she's regretting past kills and stuff instead of being able to just be her Terran evil self. Anyway, just a random theory. What did you think of this episode, man?
I liked it a whole lot. I didn't think I would like it based on the trailer.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it last week. You were like, I don't want him to go off and do another thing.
Yeah, I was like, maybe, this seems like a step back. And in some ways it was, but it was also a step forward for Burnham, because I was last week or the week before, whatever it was, when she became the number one, I was like, I wonder how long that shit's going to last.
Yeah, no, I couldn't believe it went away this quickly.
And I was really happy with that. Also, I was really happy with, okay, Discovery A? Yes.
Okay, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. I didn't see that on the first watch. I saw it on my second watch.
I mean, they completely retrofitted the ship. They did away with those little walkways.
I didn't think that just retrofitting caused for it to be renamed. I thought that was for when it was a completely new ship. I mean, I realize there's been drastic overhauls here.
I mean, this is the ship of Theseus now. Theseus, whatever it is called. I think at this point it could be argued as much as they retrofitted or refitted, I should say, refitted the Discovery is a new ship.
Sure. I just, in the past, when we have seen ships be lettered, it's been actually a full whole cloth new ship. They've done major refits on other ships and not changed the letter. So
you're right. Yeah.
But I agreed when we're talking 1,000-year different technology, it's a major difference. But I still feel like that's a weird thing to do. But I'm here for it. I think it's interesting. And you texted me about the detached nacelles. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and one of the funny things to me is like, I am more than a person who does it. I do it from time to time, but more than a person who does it himself. I really like looking at Star Trek models and a lot of custom Star Trek models that people post. So like I follow a lot of like Star Trek modeling groups, and people are pissed because there's no way for us to do detached nacelles.
Yeah, I mean, you can do some thin wire type stuff, and I'm sure there will people that do the like suspend it with magnets and stuff.
Yeah, I've thought about the magnets. I don't think you can really do it unless you had like.
You'd have to have it in like some sort of environment that like made magnets around it or something.
Right, it would be a situation.
Yeah, not easy to do. Sorry, modeling groups.
Yeah, and like some of them are just like, I throw out the notion altogether. Why would they need to do it? And like they're like, some people are like attacking Discovery, talking about like they're saying it would be more wind resistant, or it would be less wind resistant without the nacelles. And that doesn't make sense. There's no wind in space. And then other people are like, no, they never said wind resistant. They just said it improves maneuverability. Mm-hmm. Which if you basically have a Bluetooth nacelles that could like just move around independently of the ship. Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense.
I wonder how much they will move.
I don't know
if they're just going to hover around that area. Will they like be able to reverse and like make them go warp in different directions or something? Like,
I mean, it would be really advantageous if you're in the middle of a battle, and the enemy targets your nacelles. You could just like move your nacelle.
Also, I feel like we need to get to character stuff and talk about this episode soon. But
why? This is our show. Screw that shit. We want to talk about this.
I hear you. I feel like we should talk in general. I think our general rule should be try to get talked about the major episode, then devolve into madness. But
this isn't madness, dude. We're talking about 1,000 years in the future. We're talking about the detached nacelles. That's what
I'm getting at.
Oh,
if you're nacelles, please correct me. You know more than I do. I thought the nacelles were the warp drive, right? Like that's the warp nacelles.
They're connected to the warp drive, to the warp core.
Yeah, I thought they were what allows it to go to warp, right? Like they always in the they're called the warp nacelles, right?
Right. Yes.
So if dilithium they aren't using dilithium anymore.
They are, but it's scarce.
Okay.
And whatever caused the burn could happen again.
Right. So that's why I thought they weren't using it anymore. I guess I'm a little confused about why they've continued nacelles at all, and especially like develop detached. I guess they could have developed those 150 years ago or something. But
yeah, well, warp speed is still happening. It's just
right.
They're I think they're going a lot slower than they could because they don't have nearly as much dilithium as they once did.
Yeah. I don't understand why the first thing they're not doing with Discovery is using it to warp, or they're not spore driving teams to all of their satellites that they can repair or replace these satellites so they have more visibility and more communication capability.
Yeah, that's a really good call.
I think that's like the first thing. I mean, I realize they're saying they have fires to put out and they need a native fast responder for this particular situation. But for the Discovery, it seems like that would take 5 minutes, right? Like you get a team together, you throw it in Discovery's hangar bay. You could even do multiple. You could go in 30 minutes. You could warp to 6 different locations around the galaxy, drop a team so that they set up a relay, and then you're out, and then go back and pick them up later.
Yeah, but it does seem like this episode they are picking up like directly after, like, hey, I mean, like we literally have the crew come on board and be like, what the shit is this ship now? Well, they've been refitting it. Yeah, that is true. That is true. They just refit it. They just finished the refit. It sounds like the refit took a few weeks though. Yeah, because Georgiou says that this thing's with her started a few weeks ago. Right. Yeah. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the real reason. And also they've got this other thing brewing where, they didn't even want Michael to go and do anything about the burn. They were just like, whoa, no, we got this thing going on. I did love that, Admiral Vance, like, sort of came down in Saru and was like, by the way, you could have just asked me about this. And maybe I would have agreed with Michael Burnham. And now, she wouldn't be in trouble and I wouldn't be looking down on you. Like, that's a good point, Admiral. Yeah, it's a really good point. Take that, Saru. Yeah, and Saru does. Saru takes it to heart. But I absolutely agreed with him. Like, he should have fired Burnham from her post. Absolutely. She doesn't need to be a first officer if she's going to be, ignoring his orders. Yeah, for sure. I also agreed with her completely, though. Yeah. Till he says it. Till he says, I might have done the same thing in her situation. Like, it was a tough call. She was faced with it, and she had to make the call to save someone she loved. And, it's great that we're, 6 episodes in? 3, 4, 5? I have no idea how many episodes we're in. This is the 6th episode, as previously stated. Thank you. You're very welcome. Fully bought the kiss between her and Book. Oh, I did too. They did the legwork. They gave it 6 episodes. I bet they did. They left her with him for some amount of time. We saw like real, a confidant friend relationship. And then you saw sort of the like, no, we're not. There's nothing here. We're just friends. Like that whole thing, it built that tension in a way that when they kissed, I was fully on board. Yes. It's really rare for me to be fully on board in these scenarios. Yeah, I've been fully on board for like 2 episodes though. I'm like, kiss her. Let's do this. I'm with you. I'm glad they waited though. They did the work. It's so common that these shows like someone meets and then they're making out, and I felt that way a little bit with Ash Tyler. I felt like that was kind of quick. Yeah. It did not feel that way. It has that is a plague that has run rampant across Star Trek from the very beginning. Yeah. Or well, even if they didn't meet recently, the plague is still there. That it's like, why are they in a relationship? Like I don't think I ever saw them have an interaction that I believed. Yeah. But everybody did a really good job this episode. I really liked the Andorian who had his antenna cut off. I'm glad he didn't die. Like me and my wife thought he was dead. Oh, I thought he was dead too. But also he was key to the drama of this episode. I've really been trying to pay attention to the way they're balancing these one-off stories. The Earth story, this like botanical garden story that they had, and this episode where they're this prison break. How are they balancing that with the overarching story? And they've done a fairly good job. That's something I think all shows struggle with, and finding the right balance is really important. And one thing that is important to that balance is making sure there's really a reason to believe that the story they're telling from week to week could have consequences. And in this case, that Andorian was the consequences. Like him getting shot and being like, and you could tell Book cared about him, and Book like
pulling him out of that war zone and like the guy's bleeding. Like it really made me feel like that guy could die right now. And it wouldn't affect the show, but it would like make my heart hurt. And I wanted him to get out. I wanted Book to be able to save him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really well done. And it was well thought out, well written. I liked it.
Yeah. I at this point care about everything that's happening. I want Saru to get his sea legs as captain. And this, his screw up with Michael and not going to the Admiral about it was a good stumbling block. I enjoyed seeing that. And I like that Admiral Vance is not perfect. I like that he is an asshole. I like that he is way too focused on putting out fires and not looking at the big picture. I loved it when he told, like, when Burnham was like, permission to speak, and he was like, it better be the best damn thing I've ever heard. Like, yeah, dude. I loved it. That's my shit, dude. I loved it. I agree completely. I love that Georgiou is having these like PTSD flashbacks. I want to see what that's about. I want to know what, like, who she killed or whose blood is on her hands that's like freaking her out.
Do you think it's Burnham?
It might be Burnham.
I don't remember. This is me not remembering season 1, but I don't remember exactly what they told us about Burnham, except that she betrayed Georgiou.
Yeah.
To work with Lorca.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it possible that once she was discovered having betrayed Georgiou, did Georgiou kill her? I don't know. That would be emotionally evocative for sure. If we're having this, if she's been having these, one of the reasons she's caring about Burnham even more so is that she killed the other Burnham.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened. Now she kept saying the name San though.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think so. I would assume. I thought she was saying son at first.
Right.
But I don't know. But yeah, Memory Alpha says that it was San, S-A-N, was an individual from the Mirror Universe, and states that that was the word she was saying despondently over this bloody body. So
okay, I don't remember San.
I know
that's tough. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Podcasters.
No. I mean, I had to look it up on Memory Alpha. Like I thought I was wondering like why I thought she was saying son, and you hadn't caught that. So I was like, oh no, it says San. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are bad podcasters.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah.
I'm not used to just like looking up stuff sometimes. Like, you and me, like we're old schoolers, man. We would sit on the phone and talk about the shit in between the commercials when DS9 was playing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know.
You're like, wait, who's that lady? Yeah, back in the day. Okay, so I really liked when they had Burnham try to reach this like arm out to Georgiou. It was actually like really impactful. When she's trying to tell her, you're not in the Terran Empire. Like weakness here is not a death sentence. Like you can. We're here. I am here. I'm by your side. I'm here to help you. And then she says, another Michael told me she was here to help me, or she was there for me, and I know how that turned out. I wonder if that's a clue. Maybe it's Michael that killed San.
Maybe. Now that's a good theory.
Yeah. Of course, I don't remember who San is, so there we go.
Well, I don't think we know.
Oh, okay. So is that, I just didn't know if she was mentioned previously, she or he was mentioned previously.
No, I don't think so. It's just a bloody body as far as we know that's laying on the floor.
Okay.
That Giorgio is saying their name over and over again.
Gotcha. Okay, so when it said when you read that, I thought that Memory Alpha was saying we had seen that character maybe, or like whatever, you know.
I mean, we saw a bloody body in this episode.
Yes.
Can I say how Stamets was funny when he like told Hugh, he was like, Adira trusted me today. Like he just had such a scowl on his face, like, what an idiot. She trusted me today.
I don't think he was saying idiot, but yeah. Yeah,
he was just like this, I don't know, this almost disgusted, perplexed expression on his face, like, what am I supposed to do with this?
What do you think of his willingness to believe her and not to worry about her, not to think like we need to get her checked out, need to see what's going on here? Like, I feel like there's a middle ground there where you can be like, oh, you've got an imaginary friend that you fully believe is there. Okay, that is possible. I'm not saying you're not wrong, but maybe you should talk to someone. Like maybe we should figure out what's going on here. The lack of skepticism was kind of like, okay.
Well, the lack of skepticism, I think would only really be believable from Stamets and Culber, because you know, they have both literally existed within a space mushroom network and had connections to each other post death, and you know, Stamets especially, I think, has already formed a bond with Adira and knows what it was like to feel crazy. And also, we're talking to someone, like, to the first human that we know of who's had a freaking long-term symbiote inside of her.
Yeah.
This is a person who can literally, like go into the back of her head and talk to her previous host. Why the hell can't she talk to her dead boyfriend?
I guess my point is not so much that, like, I'm not trying to say it's impossible or that like him making that character decision is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm like looking at the crew, like who we have, and they're all kind of believers.
This crew has seen a lot of shit.
Yeah, I agree, but like I guess part of the Federation, like, ethos of times past is like that sort of scientific based skepticism that, like, okay, I see you're saying this thing is a magical orb, but let's talk about what that might actually mean. And I'm fine having a character that, or characters that believe the magical orb, you know, the Curanorese, for instance. I love that. But I like that. One of the things I like is that sort of balance between those two things. And I looking at the crew that we have, I just feel like we're getting a little bit slanted towards that, like, group of believers. We should agree they've seen a lot of things, and especially Stamets has a good reason for those things. But I guess I kind of missed that, like, sort of. I miss that skepticism a little bit. I miss the push and pull of skepticism versus faith that we got a little bit of last season with Pike and Burnham discussing these things. Neither here nor there. I just thought that was an interesting observation that scene sort of highlighted for me.
It doesn't bother me because we haven't had like a full on the entire crew accepting what's going on with her. And like nobody else knows, as far as I know, except for Stamets and Culber. And, you know, let's face it, you know, she has displayed an amazing ability to create and think outside the box, and has helped him get rid of his, you know, whatchamacallits in his arm. And, you know, he has an emotional investment to her beyond the shared trauma. So he has seen and imagined more than most, as they put it. So I don't mind him or Culber believing her and trusting her with everything that she said. Other people, we'll see. I don't think we've seen anyone else really quite react to that.
Oh yeah, not that particular thing. I guess I'm just thinking of how they've reacted to most circumstances now.
Yeah, which, they're 1,000 years in the future. There's so much they've dealt with. So I think they're all just sort of in shock, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess I'm not talking about just this season. I guess I'm talking about like an overarching thing for this show. But even like the Red Angel stuff, and like I feel like Burnham there was a certain point where Burnham was just like, all right, I just have faith in the Red Angel. And she didn't say those words, but it just felt that way. It felt a little, it just feels like they're leaning more on faith than skepticism. And I think that balance is something I enjoy in Star Trek. So
yeah,
it may be one of the things that reminds me so much of Doctor Who. We talked about last week how this melody drifting through the whatever reminded us of Doctor Who. And that in connection with the burn, in connection with like all cultures knowing this melody, like it feels sort of like a Doctor Who thing. And Doctor Who is a show that is a lot more about faith. Everything's sort of this leap of faith and jump into the fray and do your thing. Like it's not a skepticism based universe. It is like, nope, you see a thing, you accept the thing and you move on. Like, and I just I find it interesting that this show is feeling more that way, and I'm wondering how all that connects and where it goes from here.
I'm digging it though. Like when I got into Doctor Who, and we came into it late, but
yes,
as far as even by the standards of the 2005 revival, I think we started watching in 06 or 07.
Yeah, I got into it like after the first season was out, I think.
Yeah. I started feeling like, one of my favorite things about the movies, the Star Trek movies, was the recurring concept of destiny or a best destiny. Sort of just I really, and that's also one of my favorite things about the original series is that there was at times a notion that different philosophies could have been right about certain things, and there might be more than just pure science. And in fact, they that was almost the crux of the show to some degree, where you had like human feeling versus cold scientific logic. And then as we moved into the next generation, it got more and more like, let's have a bunch of technobabble.
Right. Well,
work our way out of an episode.
I agree with you that there are elements of that. I think Kirk is a character that has that sort of like air of destiny around him. And it is because he's experienced so many great things. But that's the thing. He has Spock there with him that is often like the check to that. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm not seeing that as much in this show right now. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's,
right.
I'm not saying it's bad even. I'm just saying it's an interesting development for the show.
Well, yeah. What I was really just saying is like watching Doctor Who, that was one of the things where it kind of clicked with me. I was like, for as much as Enterprise sang about faith of the heart, I don't feel like they really did much with that, and maybe I should just go back and watch Enterprise again. Maybe I'm wrong, but there were a couple of things that old Star Trek had, like the original series through the movies, the first 6 movies had, that later TNG, DS9 stuff. Well, not DS9 because of the prophets and all that. That was really dope.
Yeah.
And Destiny was a huge part of that, and that's one of my favorite things about the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
But TNG and Voyager definitely, and to some degree Enterprise, and I say to some degree because I've watched it less than any other show, I would say they aired less on the side of the Twilight Zone-y, could some of these philosophies be true, faith, destiny, etc. They aired less on that and more of, here's a techno-Bible science answer that doesn't exist, and they didn't have to actually strive for anything to get there. They just went, of course, the, Nero blah 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 shlabba-da-doop can be realigned, and and that's boring to me. So when I started watching Doctor Who, I was like, this is like much the same way the 2009 Star Trek said, where Pike said, one of the things where Starfleet is missing is that willingness to, leap before looking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Which is a terrible way to put it, but
I agree with that. I agree with that. I like. That's why I love the balance. But and I do think that TNG sort of lacks that, and I think the technobabble is a little bit of a different problem personally. I think the technobabble, this is the problem with technobabble, and it can be the same problem with the Doctor Who style of faith, where he doesn't do technobabble. He does do technobabble, but sometimes he does like sort of like magic babble.
Yes.
It's just like the same thing where he's just like, I'm going to bring the universe together. And it's like, and he moves his hands in a way and does a thing with the switch. And then suddenly it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
Or he can speak to animals or babies and we don't really know why or how.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm talking about is the same way with Star Trek, the technobabble thing. So here's the thing for me. If a show wants to have good drama, you need to know the decision that the character is making.
Mm-hmm.
That is good drama. Like, you need to know what two things the character is deciding between. The rules have to be established, and the character has to make a decision. And if their decision is outside of your possible knowledge as the viewer, then I think it is failure. Mm-hmm. On the part of the writing. And that's why technobabble is such a failure to me, is it's often like the resolution to the episode will just be like, Geordi's a really good engineer.
Yeah.
Of future engineering that doesn't necessarily have to line up with any reality. Yep. And it's like, that's not okay. And the same thing can happen with Doctor Who, where it's like, the thing I just described, like the end of the episode comes and it's like the big drama's here. And it's like, but what are we going to do? We have these two choices. Both of them are bad, or we don't see a way out or whatever. And then he just does some magic thing that doesn't really make any sense, that we never knew he could do before. And that's a failure to me. Those episodes are failures. So anyway, I think those are two different things in my mind, the faith and science discussion and the like sort of technobabble lazy writing.
I'm not saying we can't have, like, certainly within like the fandom now we have a certain subset of technobabbles and we know basically what it means. And I think they should adhere to those things, and and that they shouldn't just like mix it up and be like, oh, new technobabble or anything. But, I do like sometimes when there's we don't know. There is this that is unexplained. We don't have the answers for everything. That's all I mean, is I really like that. And I like the notion that there are story elements where the characters are like, we just don't know why, but this is what happened. And as long as they hang a lantern on it and say, this is weird shit, this is unexplainable, I'm okay with it most of the time.
Yeah. I basically am okay with almost anything as long as it follows its own rules and the characters' decisions are actual decisions. Like, the characters have agency to the point that I can put myself in their shoes and understand the choices they're making. Like, that's good drama to me.
Yeah.
So let's see. Anything else in this episode that I'm sure there's lots of stuff we haven't touched on.
Yeah. I mean, just technology stuff, dude. Like, for me, like,
yeah, I know this is big for you. This is a big episode for you.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing those like derelict 23rd century ships, like the Hiawatha class. Like, I just love that kind of shit. I love it.
Yeah, dude. I love the little moment where we find out the spore drive is top secret.
Yes.
That was cool. It gets brought up in that meeting. I kind of thought that's something that the Admiral should have told Saru beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to keep this a secret. Don't mention it in this meeting. That should be my call at some point. But he just, he says that. But I thought it was neat. It makes a lot of sense that, he's trying to keep that information compartmentalized, but it also means that there might be some trust issues with him and his even like within the Federation, which makes sense. How raggedy edge they are. Like, they were like fast responders. What does that mean?
Yeah. I loved it. When do you think they'll get new uniforms?
I don't know if they will.
They got a freaking new ship.
Yeah. They got new badges. That's part of a new uniform.
They got new badges, and they're badass too. I loved the whatever he was, the Saurian who kept just teleporting in from place to place and going, "This isn't sick bay."
The first time he did it, I thought it was a joke about him sitting in the captain's chair. Like, I just teleported to the captain's chair. Look at me. And then he just started doing it all over the place. I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is just a joke about him not knowing how the transporter works. His site-to-site transporter. He
still can't figure it out. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I loved it too. Oh, and of course, we have to talk about something.
Sure.
The best thing, the best line of this episode, most important mention in this episode, self-sealing stem bolts from the late 24th century.
Yes. Yes. The only thing is, I was hoping someone would be like, we still don't know what they do. Like,
no, I love it. I love it. I love that they're a thing, and that they're exactly, because it's not that nobody knows what they do. It's just that like Nog and Jake don't know what they do.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yep.
It's a great call out. They're talking about the same ones from that area. Because conceivably, she could have walked over to a bin and found the actual, like, Nog-Jake consortium. Yeah, I wish she'd walked over to a bin. It would have been too much, I know.
Yeah, it would have been too much. Then they already had, like, the 24th century phaser from, like, season 1 and 2 of TNG.
So much fun.
Yeah, they already had a lot of the stuff, so I didn't want to go too far.
It's all so much fun. I love it.
I really enjoyed what they had.
I saw a great meme going around that was like just like Saru, that conversation between Saru and Burnham where he tells her she's not allowed to go. It's just like, it was just a meme of like, I want to go do this mission. No, you can't do this mission. But what if I'm really fast? And she's like, no, I said no. And she's like, but I'm probably going to do it anyway. And he's like, I'm starting to see that maybe I should have let you be court-martialed back on the.
Yep.
Maybe you should have been court-martialed. I don't know. It was really funny.
Yeah, that's good. And true.
It is. She's not a good Starfleet officer. She's really not.
She shouldn't even be a Starfleet officer. Like, that's the thing. She's Kirk. Like, she's excellent until something needs to happen and some idiot higher up than her tells her no. And then she's like, yeah, but it has to happen.
Yeah. She's Kirk with consequences.
That's the perfect way of looking at it. Yes.
Yeah. That's her arc this entire like 3 seasons. She's Kirk with consequences.
The only thing, she's Kirk too early. Like, when you go back to the original series, look at Court Martial and different, like, Kirk had a career where he was like out freaking standing. Like, he had, like, when they court martial his ass, like, they, his lawyer has like the computer like, James Kirk or whatever, and then starts listing off all of his medals and all of his commendations and stuff. And like the freaking other guy, the prosecutor guy is like, this isn't really necessary. We can just go ahead and cut it off. He's like, actually, Your Honor, I think it's absolutely imperative that that character is a huge thing in this case. Mm-hmm. So let's just go ahead and hear the rest of that. And the judge is like, okay. Yeah. And then they just sit there awkwardly listening to all of the great things Kirk did before he became captain. And then it's like, okay. So that's like, all of that is the reason Kirk can get away with all the bullshit he pulls as captain.
Maybe the reason he has all those commendations is because he's always done things a little outside the lines, and he's done a lot of times he gets commendations that way. Like a lot of times he goes
Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times he goes off and does some half-cocked thing that's like against what the Federation wants, but it also saves all of humanity or whatever. That's the whole thing. And so like maybe it's always been his impetuous nature has been what's been able to allow him to rise to the top, even though it's not a really great guy to have in the chain of command.
Yeah. I have this like fun little imaginary conversation in my head with Kirk and Burnham where she's like, I don't understand why I don't get away with it. And he's like, I don't start wars. You have to be careful when you're insubordinate.
You got to pick your shot. Yeah.
Disobey the admirals no one likes.
You gotta be a better judge of character.
That Commodore was a piece of shit.
And he probably had some alien in his head. Oh man, this is good stuff. Good stuff. I'm pumped, man. This episode was another good one, and like this,
it was.
This season has been, batting 1,000 as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen a bad episode. Some episodes are like extra epic, but nothing's been bad yet. And I haven't been bored by any episode, and every episode's had an intriguing arc within itself, but also has led to the bigger story. I do hope this next episode they get back to the main thrust of like looking for the burn. I'd like to know where this triangulates to, which is great.
Yeah.
I like being in a place where I'm like, I really want to know what caused the burn. I find myself caring, Dave. I find myself caring.
I care.
I feel like previous seasons, I haven't been too invested in the mysteries.
Yeah.
And I am this season, which is exciting.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we can get into this in some of the feedback, definitely.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have feedback. Let's do that.
Yeah, we do.
Get through as much as we can, I guess.
Yeah, man. Let's get to this. Talking about the melody, though, I put out this question on Twitter because I have a theory about the melody. I said, what do you guys think is behind so many people knowing the same melody? My random theory is a parasite, a literal earworm, and I bet we'll even hear Michael Burnham say that lives within a certain vibrational frequency, that frequency that made all of dilithium explode. I tagged a few people, and the Flightcast, who has a show called Fans Without Borders, and DC TV Squadcast, said that's a good theory. It's possible the reason for the burn, or also could be an unintentional remnant of who or what caused it that occurred at the same time it happened, resonating across the galaxy. Sean Ray of that Star Trek podcast and Cosmic Potato Network says, and the lullaby is the antidote. So like, I like this. I like this community.
Yeah.
Stu Little says a psychic shockwave that originated from a telepathic character, probably Vulcan, who was in the proximity of what caused the burn, which connected to all other members of that species who died simultaneously, and from there, the effect radiated out to implant in the subconscious of those in the vicinity. And if they can tap into the subconscious implant of the melody, they can unlock a memory of the burn's origin and what that melody has to do with it. I was like, dude, you win.
Yeah.
That's a really good theory.
I like that.
Liquidaria says, you don't think them jumping through time had nothing to do with the burn? I hope not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I really don't want Burnham to have done it. I don't. It's like Michael being a problem, or the problem, Burn being Burnham. that is such an obvious thing. I don't want it to be true. And I'm honestly going to be pissed if it is.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think that's the case. Even if somehow the Discovery is involved with the burn, I still don't think it's going to connect to her name. I think that's silly.
I do too, but everyone thinks it. Everyone keeps saying it. I keep seeing people say this all across the internet. I'm like, it's so obvious. Please, no.
Yeah,
please, no. Let's see. Little Trank says on Twitter says, that's not a bad theory. I think the two are definitely connected. It's possible that if your theory holds, that vibration is also messing with Detmer somehow, and she will be the key to finding the source of the signal, which of course will lead to a Romulan cabal.
No.
I was like, I will pay real money just to annoy Matt for them to make it a Romulan cabal.
I would love if the show wanted to troll me so hard they named the Romulan group the Cabal, just to really screw with me.
In reference to last week's episode, Stu says, "Oh God, Matt, I think you're half right. The burn won't be something the Federation did, but something that Discovery will do in this season that has a timey-wimey retroactive effect."
It absolutely could be the case.
Stu also says, maybe Matt will remember the outrageous Akona better as the episode where Data gets comedy tips from hologram Joe Piscopo.
I do vaguely remember that, but I don't. Yeah.
I thought you might too.
Yeah. I remember that they did that.
Stu Little says, why does every cultural reference point in Star Trek have to be from Earth? Buster Keaton gets recommended to a Kelpian captain by an AI with knowledge of countless civilizations. Earth is the real Mary Sue of Star Trek. In this instance, I feel like the AI is interacting with the sentient, space knowledge or whatever. I can't remember what it's called now.
The sphere data.
The sphere data, yes. But they know that primarily the Federation and Starfleet come from Earth, and primarily the crew is human. So they're going to try to relate to human beings.
Yeah, and
the Buster Keaton thing.
Now they're killing off all the characters with prosthetics.
Yeah. Even though they had like a weird, funky looking CGI dude this week, but on the ship.
Oh, interesting. I don't know that I saw.
Oh no! It was one of the captains.
Oh,
it was one of the fleet captains.
He wasn't CGI, was he? I thought it was practical.
Hey, man, the best ones you never know for sure.
That's true. It was really funny. They did on the outside of the ship. They had these little bots swimming around on the outside of the ship, and the outside of the ships always look a little cartoony. And they looked very cartoony. Then they cut inside the ship, and they had one go across the front of the actors.
Yeah,
and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
It's like they put so much more effort into that one than they did the ones outside, because they're like, it's standing next to the ship, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the real thing. They will put more work into the ones next to physical, practical people
for sure,
than they will in CGI. Absolutely.
I just thought it was funny because it went directly from one to the other, so it made me laugh because the difference in quality of CGI was substantial. Oh yeah,
the CGI scenes that are like completely CGI, there's so much information there already, like there's no point. If they put more in there, it's just your brain is already not working right. You're already just going like, okay, this is overload. Which, by the way, I was too busy staring at like every piece of the ship that I could like suck into my eyeballs, and I'm like, oh my God, those lights, those blue lights. Oh, it looks like Tron Trek. Oh. I really like the way Discovery looks right now.
That's awesome, man.
But yeah, this is a thing that has, like, it makes sense in this episode. for the AI to be like Buster Keaton for the crew. Star Trek does have an obsession with the past, specifically the past of Earth.
There was someone who wrote an article about it once about this sort of thing, and it's like, yeah, they do. But like, have you ever tried to make up the pop culture of another culture?
Yeah.
And so like, they mention other cultures, pop culture in Star Trek all the time, Klingon opera, and every once in a while you even hear it. But like most of the time in this kind of stuff, I forget who said this. Have been
those. Remember years ago when we first got into podcasting, not producing podcasts, but listening. There were those guys who were doing all the Star Trek. They were doing Star Trek reviews, like the Star Trek movies leading up to 2009, I guess.
I guess I don't.
They talked a lot about it.
Okay.
But there was like one guy, because they had like a guy who was a big fan and like a guy who was a casual fan and a guy who was like didn't know anything about Star Trek. And like that guy was just like, why do they keep bringing up shit from Earth's past? Like,
oh yeah, I hear that complaint all the time. I just think it's anytime you want to have actual pop culture appear on screen, I feel like, anytime they try to do actual future, you know what I think I'm now remembering the interview I'm thinking of. I think it was actually, the guy who does the Orville.
Okay.
What's his, Seth MacFarlane. He was talking about the Orville and how Star Trek and the Orville sort of concurrently, or in response, both tend to have an obsession with Earth's past. And they asked him about that, and he was like, "Yeah, because like every time you see on screen they try to write future music, it's like the stupidest thing you've ever heard." And it just seems silly. Like, so if you want something to actually be like emotionally evocative, it's impossible to be like, I'm going to create pop culture. Like, if you want a Buster Keaton scene to be on the screen, like, fine. But if you want to like be like, I want a Klingon film, so then you have to create what a Klingon film is like, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting way to think about it.
I feel like every Klingon film would just be 300.
Sure. But you just like you got to think of like, what would even a film be? Would it be 2-dimensional? Would it be 3-dimensional? Would it be in any way like we think of film? I don't know. It's an interesting thought to be like, oh yeah, of course they can't. The only culture we see, it's because the only culture they have time to sit there and like figure out. Yeah,
like I don't know. I feel like Klingons would watch Kurosawa.
Sure. I mean, especially in the original Klingon.
Yeah. And subsequently, of course, they would watch Sergio Leone. The man with no name is playing both sides. He has no honor.
All right. We got any other feedbacks?
Sure.
Cool.
All right. So, Little Trank. That name.
I like it. It
says episode 5 feedback. I have discovery feedback. I love seeing briefly the ships, especially the 2 big call outs, which would be Voyager and Nog. I wish someone had given a quick history dump of the last 100 years or so and at least saw the Disco crew research their families. Well, I want to see that too.
Yeah.
I want to see more of this future galaxy. I like that there hasn't been a lot of retread of aliens we've seen before, but I want to know more about the state of the galaxy. It looks like they're showing how important the Federation is. I wish that Admiral Vance had given more of a debrief and upgraded Discovery before sending them out on a mission. Do you think Disco will get upgrades? 32nd century shields, weapons? Yes, I do. I do think they'll get upgrades. Do you think spore travel will replace warp drive? Yes. I think they will have to destroy the dilithium. I don't think the dilithium will be around by the end of the season.
Interesting.
I don't think it'll be gone and everybody will get spore drive.
Yeah, it's just a matter of you gotta They are talking a lot about. I think they'll have to make a decision about whether to reproduce the spore drive or not. I don't know if it'll happen or not because I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but I think that we're going to find out some. The Federation has some dark things about it and some positive things, and they're going to have to decide whether they want to spread this version of the Federation all across the stars again. I just had the thought, like, what happened to Mr. Field Commission Communications Officer?
He's still back there.
Yeah, but like, they found the Federation. Shouldn't they like try to connect him up?
I mean, they probably did.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not yet. They just found the Federation. I don't know. I just realized I kind of when that all happened, the first episode of this season, I was really looking forward to this sort of like ragtag, barely Federation, sort of proto Federation thing they were starting with this like communications officer and Book and Burnham looking for Discovery, and I feel like that just went away. They skipped that whole year, and I was super intrigued by it.
I'm very curious to see what happened.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get any more. I'm sure we'll see him again.
I do. I think we will, yeah.
He's still looking for the Discovery, and Burnham's just not going back to let him know they already found it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there's an interesting question there about, like, do we destroy the dilithium we have and leave the galaxy in the Dark Ages, and then have the only functioning, like, reproduce the spore drive? And I mean, if they do that, they're back on top immediately.
Sure. But they're also targets because there's just like going to be an entire galaxy wanting to take the spore drive technology.
I mean, but what's anybody going to do? I mean, it's like that scene from Man of Steel where like Laura tells Jor-El, like, they'll try to kill him. And he goes, how? He'll be a god to them. Like if you could just spore out and like spore and pop back in behind somebody and shoot their ass, like, man, the Federation, it would be such an advantage.
I mean, I fully agree that it'll be an advantage, but that's why it would be like everyone else in the galaxy that doesn't want to join the Federation would suddenly be like teaming up to try to think of a way to trap them, Yeah. They're still, I mean, they've had the spore drive for all these seasons and they've still gotten in a bunch of binds, Sure.
I do think there's like a really cool opportunity to, tell sort of an allegory of America in some ways, like have all these other cultures start to like really be like, the Federation stood for hope and now they're becoming an empire.
Sure.
Because of this spore drive. Like, I think that would be really cool. And I get the feeling sometimes that Admiral Vance might not be a good guy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm still not fully sold that he is. So that'll be interesting to see. All right, what else we got in this feedback?
So Lil Trank also goes on to say, do you think Admiral Vance was a jerk? Yes. He says, I don't think he was. Everyone is paranoid now, but he kind of has to be, right? I do agree, but I think he's going to let it get the best of him eventually. He says, I think he showed proper caution, but sending out a 1,000-year-old ship that could hold the key to interstellar travel was a bad call. Yes and no. Like, if they have the spore drive, if they have that means of travel that they claim to have, he has to have proof of that. All right. He has to like let them go out and prove themselves. Not just technologically, but, morally, like they have to prove their loyalty. Their loyalty, to the Federation. I think there was a lot of like, look, man, we can get this settled really quick if you just go and do this mission. Also, we don't have any better options right now.
Yeah. And they need to prove whatever they need to prove. You're right.
Sure. Yeah. I do think he showed proper caution, but I think he'll wind up being the guy who kind of like goes a little south on him.
It's possible. Now, the more I think about it, this is a really classic sort of tale. This tale of like they were the experimental ship, and then they got taken out of the timeline or whatever. But like now they're dropped into this area. The burn having been a thing and ruining warp travel, like that really sets up the spore drive to be super valuable. And I haven't really, I feel like I haven't given that enough of thought.
Yeah. And it already is.
Yeah, like it already is like a huge benefit to be able to do spore drive instead of warp drive.
As long as they've got Discovery out there, period, Starfleet will become a target more so than ever.
Agreed. As soon as it's revealed what the Discovery can do, and I think that's going to be a thing. I think when the Orion Syndicate or whatever, or the Orion and Andorian Syndicate, I forget what they're called, find out that the Discovery can do what it can do, that's going to be, that's going to be real bad for the Federation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't see a way around Vance being like, you know what? That's fine. Either that or Vance being like the red herring bad guy. Mm-hmm. And then like maybe there is an attack. He gets killed and his like second in command woman, who seems to be even more shady than he is, winds up being like, no, we're outfitting every ship with a spore drive now, and we're gonna take back, what is ours, kind of missing the point of the Federation.
Right.
And then Giorgio's like, no, I've seen this shit. This is Terran Empire again. Mm-hmm. I've seen this before.
Make the Terran Empire great again. All right, what do we got?
That's it.
That's it.
That's all. That's all of our feedback.
That was all 6 pages. I felt like it was going to be longer. That's why I was trying to keep us on task. Good job.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for writing in. It really, we haven't done enough of that interacting on this show. So please write in Star Trek UCast at gmail.com or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. We'll often put a post out seeking feedback about the episode before we go live or something. So we're just, or you can join the Stranded Panda chat on Facebook, where we like have the whole Stranded Panda community over there chatting.
Also have a Star Trek Universe podcast Facebook group and page.
Oh yeah, sweet.
On Facebook.
Am I a member of that?
I don't know. I thought you set it up, honestly.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I looked for it, and then it was there, and I went, oh, well, good on you,
that's
Matt.
why I started focusing on the Stranded Panda chat, is we got too many podcasts, and it started being too many groups, and I was like, let's make one thing where all these people can talk, and we'll just do a post when we want to talk about Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's just easier to follow one group.
I mean, that's fair.
But wherever you send your feedback, we will endeavor to put it on the.
If you sent us feedback in the last couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, and we never talked about it, and you really want to hear about it, man, let me know. Be like, Dave, you screwed up.
You missed me.
It's over here.
Yeah.
If you say I posted on Parler, I will not be reading your feedback.
Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, my friends. Please come back next week where we'll be talking about the next episode and hopefully more of your feedback. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Jolan True.
Salvage this, you son of a bitch.
What is she, John McClane?
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Check. There we go.
You good?
Yeah, good go.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. I just got something weird stuck in my throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can edit all that out. It's fine. You can go ahead and do your thing. Go ahead, Dave. Say your thing.
It's so distracting.
Just go ahead. Go ahead. just do it. I'm not going to do anything.
Uh-huh. On this episode of these... I knew it, you bastard.